Hey, what is up guys, and welcome back once again to another Fallout 4 settlement build. Today we're going to be checking out a gatehouse that I made for the Raider settlement. And I gotta say, I think this might be one of the more interesting builds I've done, just because we've never done one of these in the past, not only for our Raider settlement, but also any of the others. So hopefully you guys end up enjoying it, but without further ado, let's go ahead and take a closer look. Alright guys, so first things first, I thought it might be kinda neat to show you what it feels like when you first arrive at the settlement, because coming into it, you're sort of stuck in this somewhat pristine vault, and you may not be too sure what to expect. And I think that's one of the best parts about finally getting a chance to open up this door and getting to realize that this is nowhere near your average vault. It's more so an underground city, and I'm hoping that this menacing looking gatehouse I've got built up sort of portrays that it's really not run by the best of people. Now for this initial area, we really do have a lot of stuff going on. There's the toll booth, the main gate to the right, some more defenses pretty much everywhere, and I'd say overall this whole area is kind of one big kill box. So if anyone came in here that the Raiders didn't necessarily like, such as the Brotherhood of Steel or anyone else really, they could have a good chance at taking them out before they got anywhere near the main portion of the town. Because if you think about it, they could defend from the upper walkway, inside the bus, and honestly, since some of the other buildings are so much taller than this gatehouse, I'm sure they'd have snipers up there as well, kind of watching down, always with their guard up. When it finally came to doing this build, I really began to notice how much the frames were starting to drop. So it kind of dawned on me that I really needed to figure out how much detail would be enough, and also how much would be too much. So honestly, I would have loved to have made places like the toll booth just completely filled to the brim, along with the bus as well, because I have so many different ideas for filling those places up. Yeah, I know if I do that, not only are the frames going to start to drop now, but there's still a lot of this town that has yet to be built up, so at this point I'm really trying to save at least some room for other details in those builds. But anyways, speaking of the toll booth, this is where any newcomers would have to stop by first to pay their initial toll, and then I was thinking it could maybe have some sort of system that was similar to the one you needed to get inside the strip from Fallout New Vegas. So maybe after you pay your fair share of caps, you could then get a card that would grant you access to the main portion of the city, which you'd only be able to get to by passing through the broken down bus. And as you can see, even part of this has been converted into somewhat of a guard station. He's got the bed if he needs to take a short break, say if not many people are showing up. There's also some of his personal belongings kind of laying around, not only in the footlocker but also along the front of the bus as well. So at this point, I'm sure you can imagine trying to break in here and start trouble would really not be the easiest of tasks. And even if he somehow managed to kill the guard in here, along with a lot of the ones that would be on the higher areas as well, you still would not have an easy time taking over this town. Because right here is somewhat of a pressure point. So once you got to this spot, not only would you have everyone in front of you to kill, but you'd also have all the balconies kind of looking down. And like I said, there's most likely going to be snipers up there. I mean, the one in front of us is a mercenary building, so I'm sure all of them would be armed and loaded to the teeth. And I gotta say, I really enjoy how all of this turned out, because not only does it look pretty cool, but it's also very practical and functional as well. Also, before we go ahead and make our way to the top and the watchtower, I wanted to show you guys the inside of the toll booth. This is one of the areas that I really wanted to fill up quite a bit more, but just wanted to try and save room if possible. But we still have a few things like a cap stash laying around and just tons of ways to store things, because I thought not only would newcomers be able to pay with caps, but maybe they could try bartering with other items too. And just in case, say, a deal wasn't going all that smoothly, I chose to include a shotgun under the front desk. Although I'm sure the raiders would most likely have a gun at their side already, but that's just a little bit of extra backup. Also, you gotta love the sign to the left. It just says days since the settlement needed help wiping their own ass. 0. And I thought this made sense, especially after the Nuka World DLC, because nowadays you can have a lot of settlements run by raiders out there. Although unfortunately, Vault 88 doesn't seem to be one of them, so what I've had to do is sort of dress up the normal settlers to look like they're raiders. And now this here is the main walkway above the bus. It is kind of zigzaggy, but I think it's still pretty functional, and it's got a great view of the walkway below. And I know that tarp might be blocking any sort of clean shot, but if you think about it, you can obviously shoot through that if need be. And plus, if they got that far, they would also have to deal with the guards inside the bus, so I don't see it being too much of an issue. The only area that really isn't all that practical is the guard tower here. Just because, as you can see, they really have a terrible shot. But it was either this or removing the toll booth entirely, and for me that really just wasn't an option, so I thought this was a decent spot. And we could always raise it up a bit higher if need be. And if nothing else, it also has a great view of the sort of town square below, and even that area off to the left. So any sniper who wanted to kind of sit up here would have a pretty good view. And I guess you could say it might get a bit boring for this guy, since most likely not a whole lot happens that warrants killing inside the town itself. But you never know, maybe he shoots mole rats from time to time, since I know the caves in here are crawling with them. And then honestly, if the mole rats are pretty scarce as well, there's always the game of checkers. He could sit down and play with a mate. And I think you gotta keep in mind that these guys aren't doing this for free. By no means. I'm sure they're getting paid by some kind of an overboss. So even if it is rather boring, it's just something they gotta do to continue getting paid and staying alive, really. But yeah, guys, I'd say that's just about it for today. I did plan on kind of showing you the way up to the second floor area, but it really is just a lot of unfinished stuff that I wanted to show you in another video once it's actually complete. I'd say by the end it's going to turn into most likely some kind of a guard barracks, since as of now we don't have one of those yet. Now I will say, if you guys are wondering what kind of inspired this build, it was indeed Mad Max, because if you guys remember, in the second one they had that big gate on Gastown, I think it was, where they would just drive the bus off to the side to open it up. And now ours is a little bit different, at least when you look at it initially, just because you really only have room for one guy to enter at a time. So I was thinking, and since we do have room off to the right hand side, if any sort of caravans came in here, since for the most part this is a pretty trade focused town, and I'm sure they have a lot of larger items coming in here every so often. So if that was the case, they could always just slide the bus to the right, and then at that point they would have plenty of room to allow any Brahmin to pass through, or just any other larger scale items. But yeah, guys, all that being said, once again, hopefully you did enjoy the build. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one.